Traders, because I'm coming to you from the closingprint.com, June 27th, 2021. In this edition of your weekend video newsletter, we'll discuss the indices, all of which moved higher, including international markets, with the S&P 500 gamma shifting higher. We're looking for the call wall to roll up to 4,300, which would confirm a higher price range for the S&P. Risk reads as all clear at the present, with most of our tech stocks that we follow green, with the exception of Amazon last week. Heat maps are improving for the S&P 500 sectors, with travel and leisure, healthcare, biotech, and medical devices looking very strong last week. The XLY-XLP ratio is bullish to slightly neutral, and we have international markets improving. The Hang Seng, Russia, emerging markets, and the Vanguard International Index, VWILX. We'll look at these IBD 50 names this week, in addition to stocks showing relative strength and stocks that are on the move that funds are buying in green, together with some scans that we ran with oversold conditions ready to bump higher. Bulkowski has 505 green with a CPI signal green since June the 23rd at 84.8%. That's bullish, with 7 bearish patterns, 39 bullish patterns, and 374 patterns waiting for breakout. Our indicators, 16 are bullish, 3 are neutral, and 1 is bearish. The 1 bearish is NIMO. That has started to head back above the zero line after hitting minus 57 in the previous weeks. Bottom line, S&P 500 support at 4,200 and resistance at 4,300 going into July OPEX as we build gamma, with the call wall shifting higher. Starting off this week with the S&P 500 Equal Weight Index, with 8 listed on the right, make up more than 25% of the weight of the S&P. So removing those stocks renders this particular index. What we're looking at here is a buy signal, CCI in each case where we've had a vertical line and the number of stocks trading above their 50-day reversed and moved higher, in this case moving above the 50% line last week, rendered a buy signal. And in each case we can see we had nice rallies for a couple of weeks, in some cases more than a couple of months. We're looking for the same with the call wall rolling up this week to 4,300. Last week we started with very strong action in the growth stocks versus value in the upper panel. That ratio turned down towards the end of the week only because value stocks started getting bought up as well. Growth stocks were a little bit extended from the 21 EMA, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of consolidation. All of the tech stocks that we follow from the NASDAQ FANG 15 moved higher last week, with the exception of Amazon. This week we're looking for biotechs to pick up the slack, healthcare, medical devices, and for travel and leisure to resume. Together with this information, we also need to keep in mind that July is seasonally one of the strongest months of the year for semiconductors and technology in general. So any dips most likely will get bought as we look to do the same. Given the current state of value or cyclical stocks strength, with the NASDAQ 100 pushing higher for 6 straight weeks, that the last time we saw that kind of condition was back in 2019, where we had 2 back-to-back 6-week rallies with a respite in between, with the idea that RSI is still above 50 and showing strength going into the seasonally strong month of July for tech, that we could see a follow-through. However, it's becoming more probable that we'll take a breather before we push higher into July. So just be aware of it. We also see the S&P 1500, S&P 500, big caps, 400, mid caps, 600, small caps remain on a bullish signal, green above red. Histogram is rising all last week. We have tight Bollinger Bands on the 1500, looking for this expansion and consolidation to open up and provide for follow-through in the weeks ahead going into the month of July. IWM also showed strength in this weekly chart. We noted the previous wicks at the bottom of these candles that suggested any downside risk would come if we lost this level around 220. The follow-through last week helped us with the idea that we could push higher. If small caps break out this week, as many of you suggested in the trading room, then price action would dictate risk on with this asset class. We also saw breadth improving on the New York Stock Exchange, 2,700 stocks, a broad measure of market participation, with Friday showing 15 more new highs, with the moving average rising, consistent with the potential for follow-through this week. We also had the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline rising, suggesting the New York Stock Exchange composite could continue higher. We finished on 2 green elder sticks, and up volume was about 3-1, and bullish to finish the week. One of the potential caveats, and something we need to keep an eye on if we're looking for the S&P 500 call wall to roll up to 4,300, would be for VIX to manage more weakness. The fact that it's at an extreme suggests we might see some mean reversion back to the descending 50-period moving average like we've seen in previous weeks. We've reached an extreme that we haven't seen since before the COVID crisis hit back in February of 2020. And note stochastic RSI is in an oversold condition. We also saw the put-call ratio near the red zone. That tends to lead to some short-term weakness, but it did bounce late last week, which suggests that those value stocks and cyclicals that rose could see some follow-through if this line starts to creep a bit higher back into the neutral zone between 0.80 and 0.85, together with the bullish percent. This indicator lets us know when we get a little bit overheated in the upper 80s, we start to look for a pullback, and when we're in the green zone, we start to look for stocks to get bought up. At this level, we stored up some energy and potentially could follow through and push higher as bullish percent continues to rise. As this ratio drops and the 65-period moving average rolls over, like it did in late 2016 into 2017, as yields consolidated over the last several weeks, finally starting to push a bit higher last week, that would indicate better economic conditions. The 20, the 30, and the 10-year, along with the short-term yields in green and blue, rising last week. As investors take on more risk, you would expect to see VIX continue its path lower along its descending 50-period moving average, and the ratio between VIX and the 10-year yield should drop further, with yields rising and bonds moving lower, and previous occurrences obviously noted by vertical lines. We saw the S&P 500 moving higher. We also saw the US dollar moving higher, consolidated last week right along the 200-period moving average, while the US dollar Japanese yen pair continued higher in recent weeks. We've noted previous occasions where price action in the pair moved higher, forecasted the 2012 through 2015 rally in the markets, as well as late 2016 into 2017, and most recently with the current rally, which potentially could follow through in the weeks to come. So any major changes in the direction of this pair, US dollar, Japanese yen, for example, if the Japanese yen starts to pick up a lot of strength, that would indicate we could see market weakness in the US, where a push higher would be viewed as bullish for equities. Copper and commodities like gold and silver have also shown weakness lately. We're overbought and ready for a consolidation, although the recent move seems a bit overdone. So what we're watching for gold at this point is a base and then RSI turn higher. For now, this base appears to be fairly weak, whereas silver had already started moving higher last week. So we note the black candles where price action gapped up and closed lower in each case, pushed higher, closed lower, pushed higher, closed lower, while Brent and crude oil managed to follow through in its bullish trend, again closing higher last week. That would be bullish for equities if this continues, as it has a positive correlation to the U.S. equity market. Sector heat map also showed signs of improvement, updated every Friday along the top. We can see improvement in healthcare and biotechs to lead into this week, and with leisure and entertainment following through again, while the international indices also showed some signs of improvement. Sector strength also noted in biotechs, looking for a breakout this week. Real estate finally pulling back to the 21 period moving average, which we were looking for. Rather than chasing price over here, we were looking for price action to pull back. We finally got it. We're looking for real estate to break higher. That's an inflation haven. So if you're looking for protection against inflation or concerned about inflation, look no further than real estate. While we see healthcare also picking up, financials following through after the bank's stress tests last week passed with flying colors. We're looking for follow through in financials again this week. Technology is a bit overbought, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a little pullback there. Consumer staples and utilities starting to see a bid, so keep an eye on those two sectors as well. Stocks from the IBD 50 this week. 360 Digitech, QFIN, we've traded previously out of this base breakout, consolidating recent gains. Google looking for this nice clean trend to persist. Volume increased on Friday. Avant Core showing relative strength following through. Above average volume, MACD above its signal line. Stochastics embedded. The company providing mission critical products and services to customers. IBD numbers look good as well. Relative strength line climbing, looking for a breakout and a follow through. Last earnings, a nice beat, with earnings at the end of July. Axonics was also added, a little bit too extended from the 9 and 21 day. They could pull back a little bit, but volume suggests institutions are buying. In the healthcare sector, it develops and commercializes sacral neuromodulation solutions to treat patients with overactive bladders. That would be seniors. RSI relative strength line is rising. Stock moved higher on above average volume. Still in a buy zone, 4% from the pivot in the last 5 trading days. B. Riley and a lot of the asset managers like Stifel also moving higher last week, looking for a breakout in the financial group. Volume was above average as price action pulls away from the 9, 21, and 50 day. CELH, Celsius Holdings from last week's watch list. Little selling on Friday, but buyers stepped up at the low, looking for a push higher, maybe a consolidation this week. MACD's turning, Stochastics is rising. Charles Schwab, looking for a follow through here, pushing above the 9, 21, and 50 day after testing the 50 day last week. MACD's turning, stochastics rising, volume increasing. Schwab looks like a good one for this week if it follows through. It does have earnings in 19 trading days. Cloudflare, NET, exceptional relative strength last week, showing RSI muscle. Above average volume, showing institutions have been picking up shares. Obviously wouldn't chase it up here, but look at competitors. There are some that look like they could see follow through as well, like these stocks showing the top relative strength in its industry group. Corsair Gaming, I know a number of you were looking at this last week. I'm not particularly fond of this kind of price action in a sideways range. It could get something going, but it's not my cup of tea. Just wanted to point it out. I see what you're looking at, looking for a follow through. CryCut from previous watch list finally broke out on Friday. CrowdStrike and the security software and industry group names look strong. Look for a follow through, like Sumo, SUMO, pointed out by Mikey on Friday. Coming out of a flat base, you can see over here this left side volume by price bands. A move above 22 would signal a potential double in Sumo Logic. DLO added this week. It's a Uruguay-based company that provides cloud-based payment platforms to global enterprise merchants in 29 countries. Recent IPO. ESI in the chemical industry group provides a broad-based range of specialty chemicals, electronics, metal and plastics, plating, graphic arts industry groups. In-phase energy riding the trend in solar and alternative energy. Volume suggesting institutions have been buying shares. Evercore Partners, strength in financials, persistent, with this company providing advisory services on mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, and restructurings. Price action and volume suggest institutions have been picking up shares. MACD is crossing, stochastics is rising. Fiverr also showing relative strength, looking for a follow through. Stocks like Etsy and Wish also saw a lot of action last week. These e-commerce platforms for people to buy and sell products, doing quite well. Buyers stepped up at the end of the day on Friday. Volume suggests institutions have been picking up shares. Relative strength rising and showing muscle. Generac Holdings from previous watch list finally taking a breather, looking for a flag, a little pullback perhaps, and a follow through. Volume suggests institutions have been picking up shares. I'd like to get into this one. I know Frank probably took profits on Thursday, riding this trend on the breakout on the daily and the weekly time frames. In mode looks like it's going to see some continuation, a nice trend as it breaks to 52-week highs. Just grinding along, RSI's rising, volume suggests institutions. MACD above its signal line. Jefferies, another financial group name that looks good. Volume coming in, showing institutions picking up shares. MACD turning, stochastics rising. Looking for a follow through in this company that provides investment banking, capital markets, asset management, and direct investing business solutions. KKR also asset managers globally, looking for a follow through. Volume suggesting institutions have been picking up shares as they break out to 52-week highs. MACD is above its signal line and rising. The company providing global alternative asset management and capital markets transaction services to institutions. With earnings the first week of August, it's still in the buy zone, looking for a follow through. Nice sales and earnings. Pinterest looking for a follow through. The 9 and 21 have crossed through the 50-day. The 200 days rallying. Looks like it's going to push through the 50-day as well. Relative strength is rising. Volume increasing. MACD is above its signal line and rising. Roku from previous watch list. We exited this one on Thursday. Looking for a follow through and a consolidation after a flag. It looks like the flag is going to be very brief. Volume, obvious institutional involvement, the size of these candles, and the strength of the rip, all indicating institutions have been buying heavily. Looking for an entry and a follow through. Skyline Champion, SKY, looking for a breakout. Volume increasing on Friday, MACD crossing. Looking for the breakout this week. Smith and Wesson with very strong price action. I'm looking for this to come back a little bit. Very extended. The volume suggested institutions and shorts were covering. Coming back in a little bit would be better with a little base that we could push off of. Snap also looking for a follow through this week. Companies like Google and Facebook, advertising models look strong. Pinterest also. Tesla looking for a resumption of the trend. Just looking for a pivot low, followed by a push higher as RSI stays above 50. We're right in this volume by price band. Looking for support here and continuation. Tiger, same idea, looking for a push higher and a breakout ultimately above 30. Volume increasing, MACD's turning, stochastics rising. Zscaler pausing just before 52-week highs, looking for a handle. What looks like a W pattern or a cup with handle, potentially, and then a breakout. Depth of the pattern would be your measured move. Additional stocks from the IBD on the move, funds are buying list. Looking for follow through in a lot of these names. Most of them look really good. They're in the opening monologue in green. Look for these stocks to continue higher. Along with these stocks from the relative strength at new highs scan from IBD. These are all looking very strong as well. Retail did very well, showing exceptional strength last week. Abercrombie and Fitch. Look for some follow through there. Crocs at 52-week highs. Dick's Sporting Goods, among others. All of these look very strong. KKR. And some of the energy names like Whiting Petroleum and Calon Petroleum, pushing higher on above average volume. Additional stocks from our scan that looks for price action to be bullish, with the 9 EMA crossing up through the 50-day, showing early signs of a reversal at the lows. Looking for a lot of these stocks to continue higher into this week. Okay, traders, that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com with your weekend video newsletter for June the 27th. I'll send out a watch list later tonight around 11:30 on the East Coast, around 9 o'clock p.m. on the West Coast. So be sure to look for that in your inbox. Otherwise, have a great weekend, what's left of it. Take care, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning.